He lied about everything he did. He was an absolute fraud. I honestly can't remember now. It was between 30 and 50K. So I've made millions online, and I've paid for a lot of courses, a lot of programs, a lot of coaches, and a lot of mentors in order to get to where I am today. And I believe there's enough people online telling you to invest in yourself, telling you to buy their program, and I'm guilty of that because I have an info product business. But what a lot of people don't talk about is they don't actually talk about the investments they make themselves, programs they bought, the coaches they've worked with in order to get to where they are today, and how, you know, that has impacted them, how that has impacted their net worth. So today I just want to run you through absolutely everything I've brought, every investment I've made within myself that I can remember, and tell you how it helped me, because all these guys you're seeing online have invested in yourself, and investing in yourself is so important if done in the right way. You know, I've made good investments, I've made bad investments, and the goal of this video is just to share all of them with you, so you know, you can see exactly what I've done and how I got here. Now, the first person I ever brought a program from was Jordan Platten, and it was his SMMA course. At this point, I knew nothing about social media marketing. All I knew is I'd seen his YouTube videos and I thought this looked great. I bought the course and it was good, to be fair. Like, it taught me the foundations of social media marketing, it had all the information I needed, and it did help me land my first client. I think it cost like 1.5K at the time, and I definitely got a return on that investment. Sure, I would blame myself for not utilizing that course enough. I basically just bought the course and did everything it told me to, instead of actually thinking about the behind the scenes of like why this works, what this works, and learning the skills, but I'll get onto that. I then of course went on to buy Iman Gadzhi's social media marketing course too, which was around similar price point, I think. And I probably didn't need to buy another social media marketing course. I probably just needed to do the work I was avoiding. And my kind of outlook on course at this point was like, oh, there's gonna be some magic in this course. There's gonna be some secrets in this course. Don't get me wrong, it was a good course. It was a good program, but I was more so trying to buy solutions to my problems instead of actually facing them head on and working on fixing them, which kind of leads very nicely on to the next program I bought, which was an agency automation software program, whatever you want to call it. And the goal was that essentially these guys, I don't even remember who they were, they're probably hidden from the internet at this point, but the goal was that they would find me leads, get those leads on calls, close those calls, and land clients directly into my Slack channel for me, and all I'd have to do is deliver results for them. So as a naive, I think I'm probably 19, 20-year-old at this point, I was like, that sounds amazing, that sounds awesome, sign me up, get me leads. And of course, didn't really get any clients from it. I didn't get any clients from it, didn't get any results, didn't really get any calls, and they ran off with my 3.5K. When in reality, like, and again, if I be really honest with myself, I was just trying to buy solutions to my problems. I was trying to pay someone to build a business for me, or to fix the problems within the business that I obviously sucked at, which at that point was finding clients, that was sales, that was lead generation. I was sucked at it, and I was like, oh, I'll just pay someone to do it, and they'll be fine with it. But it's very hard to pay someone to do something for you if you don't actually know what good and bad looks like. And obviously, if you're trying to build your own business, you shouldn't outsource. Such a key part as client acquisition is. And I was just building a business on short-term thinking. You know, I wasn't focusing on the skills, I wasn't focused on learning them. I was trying to just buy work being done for me, which of course didn't work. It just doesn't work like that. If you're buying a program or a course, you need to do the work in order to get the results. And that sort of, it took me, how many investments we made at this point? 3 investments so far to try and learn that. I had all the knowledge I needed in order to go away and learn these things. I just simply wasn't learning them. And the next program I guess I bought into was a guy called John Gabb. He was the joint founder of a company called Mindtrepreneur, which no longer exists, but he was essentially a mindset and sales coach that shifted my whole perspective on things. I think I actually bought into John because I wanted sales training, and it ended up just being mindset training, which, you know, was way more valuable to me. And as I said, like, I had all the information I needed to get the results I was trying to achieve. I just needed to action it and actually put in the work in order to get there. And without going too deep on all this stuff, like, you really have to think about why you're doing the work in the first place. Like, what is the goal? What is the long-term thinking? What do you actually want out of the work you're doing? And as that naive 19, 20, 21-year-old at this point, I wasn't thinking about whatsoever. All I knew is that, hey, I've seen guys on Instagram, I've seen guys on YouTube making money online. I want to make 10K a month and I want to buy a Porsche. And that was the level at which I was thinking about my life, which just didn't serve me. And, you know, even to this day, I haven't bought a Porsche. Like, it's not an important thing to me. I just wasn't thinking long-term. And only when I did start thinking long-term did things really start to change for me. And it was simply by rewiring, working with this mindset coach, that I actually scale up the agency to 10K a month within a 3-month period. And it wasn't by learning any new information. It was simply about reworking my mindset and my thought patterns into actually just making sure I did the work necessarily in order to get the results. So very simply, it's just input versus output. As long as you're putting in the work to achieve something over a long enough period of time, if you continually put in those inputs, that output of that end result is going to become inevitable, providing the inputs are correct and done in the right way, of course. But that was it for me. I just needed to focus on those inputs, and by doing so, I hit 10K a month. And then over the next kind of year or so, I didn't really invest in anything. You know, the agency has scaled and did scale over to 100K a month over the next year. And I think now we're closer to like 150, 200K a month, depending on the month. Smaller profit margins than kind of traditional social media marketing agency for sure, but a business I'm super, super proud of. I believe the only investment I actually made over that year was a dinner with Iman Gadzi, which was his like most expensive program at the time, which I think cost 10K, which was great, but it was one of those just like wanting to meet your heroes kind of thing. And then I went on like a couple mindset retreats with that same business I worked with before, basically just to keep myself in check, to keep myself aligned and really make sure that, you know, I'm thinking about the bigger picture. I'm thinking about why I'm doing all this work in the first place. And at this point, I sort of figured out the coaching, the mentorship, the course business game, right? Like in order to get results with any program you want to buy into, any mentor you want to work with, you're essentially buying the knowledge, and you need to focus on buying that knowledge and acquiring that knowledge. But then it's down to you to go away and apply that knowledge. You know, nobody can do that for you. Nobody can go away and say, okay, Marcus, here's exactly what you need to do, and here, let me do it for you. It's no, like, here's everything I've done. Here's everything that I know works. If you go and apply this and you go and work on this, you can get the same results. But many people get this confused. They think that by buying a program or buying a course, and, you know, I don't blame you, I did it at the start. By buying a course and buying a program, kind of guaranteed the results. And, you know, if you don't get results, it's down to the person that sold you that program. But in reality, it's like, well, did you put in the work? Have you done all the action steps? Have you actually, you know, applied yourself to this stuff? And obviously the first few programs I bought into, I didn't. I now knew this, and I now knew that all I got to do is buy the knowledge and apply it and make sure I'm thinking about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And that's how you get the end result. So I had the agency's doing really well, still got the agency now. And I then went on to wanting to start a second business, something I was more passionate about, something I actually felt, you know, would be more beneficial in the long run for myself than just having a marketing agency. I knew the formula I needed to apply in order to make it work. So when it came to starting the second business was much easier to scale because I now had the formula, and I now knew the formula I needed to apply in order to make it to work. So the first program I went away and bought when I wanted to start the second business, which is Club Closer, was a program called Course Builder. Course Builder was a course made by Arlen Moore. It basically just told me how to, you know, start a course business from the ground up. I think it cost around 5K, and it gave me the exact foundations I needed to build that course business and that coaching business from the ground up. And it really was super valuable. But I think I found a lot of value within that program because I was applying it with this kind of formula I had now, where I'm buying the knowledge and I'm making sure I'm applying the knowledge. And I didn't just blindly follow this program like I did with the agency. I was thinking about why and how and what made this work. And I learned the process behind all these things they were teaching in order to properly apply it, in order to properly make it work. And with that, the coaching business grew to 10K a month in its first couple months, then 20K, then 30K. And now we're at around 150K a month. So it was much easier to scale. And the reason it was much easier to scale was because I knew how to sell and I knew how to market. And that's because I learned those skills, you know, whilst I was working with, you know, John Gab and My Entrepreneur, and then applying everything I bought previously from those agency courses. With that knowledge, I've then applied it to a different business model. And because I've already got those skills, it was easier to scale. So scaling it at the start wasn't impossible. Like it was not easy, like it still took work and it was still hard, but it was much easier because I already had this knowledge, I already had this foundation of skills, but I just needed to, you know, apply that formula I keep talking about, buy the knowledge, apply the knowledge, and yeah, it started going really well. But of course, like any entrepreneur, I still wanted to scale the business, and it got to the point where I didn't know how to. I think we got to around the 50K a month mark with that business, and I was like, damn, like I just can't figure out how to surpass this. And of course, I went away and I paid for more coaches and courses to effectively learn, you know, what I didn't know, and I wanted to buy that knowledge. So from my memory, I bought a course from Bastian Slot, which I think cost around 10K, Serge Guattari, which cost a sort of another 10K, and then a guy called Jeremy Page, which cost again another 10K. And look, I'm not here to knock any program or course or anyone's work, but you know, some of those courses were more valuable than others, and learning from people that have done what you're trying to achieve, it does make things a lot easier. But if I'm honest with myself, I likely fell back into the same mindset and mentality I had before, where I was trying to pay for solutions and pay for fixes and paying for someone else to help me grow the business, as opposed to kind of buying that knowledge and then applying that knowledge myself. So I probably didn't need to buy all 3 of those programs and drop, you know, close to 30 grand on mentors in the last 24 months. Throughout, you know, that last 24 months of buying all these programs, the business did actually scale up to 100K a month, and we did surpass that 50K a month mark. But, you know, it did take time, it took energy, and it took effort. And yes, the courses helped individually, and there were bits that, you know, and I'm now in a fortunate position where I can afford to drop that kind of money on these programs. And if I only get like one snippet of wisdom that helps, then, you know, it's worthwhile to me. But again, I didn't need to buy all of these. It was more sort of the time, energy, and effort that I was putting into the business that did make it work. And I think it's really important to remember that, like, the biggest lesson you can really learn is by kind of failing, struggling and failing, and not being able to do something for a certain amount of time, and then figuring out how to do it, and to do it well, and to surpass that problem and overcome it. There is so many lessons you can learn in that, and that's going to be the biggest growth period for you, is that struggle. If everything in business was like, okay, do this and you get here, do this and you get here, do this and you get here, like, it becomes boring. It doesn't become, there's no challenge in there. And I mean, look, everyone would do it, right? And the reason everyone doesn't do it and doesn't have success online is because many people give up. Many people don't dedicate the time, energy, and effort into these things. And of course, like, I know guys that have grown coaching businesses up to the, you know, $250,000 a month mark within a 6-month period. And I know guys that have been stuck at the 10, 20K a month mark for the last 2 years. Like, it all varies, but ultimately, the more time, energy, and effort you put into something, and providing you've got the right knowledge, like, you can get there. You can get there. It's not going to be the same for everybody. I think, you know, more so than the information I was buying from those 3 programs in the last 24, 25 months, it was more the fact that I was spending this money, that I was committed to getting that end result of making sure the business grew and making sure the business scaled. That was the ultimate thing, is I was spending the money to say, I was betting on myself. I was betting that, look, I'm going to spend this money and it's going to come back to me tenfold, because I know that if I just keep working, I keep putting the time, energy, and effort into this thing, we're going to get a return. Which is a very nice segue into the next investment I made in myself, which was the most expensive investment I made into myself. And it was, I honestly can't remember now, it was between 30 and 50K for this business mentor that a lot of my friends have worked with, a lot of my friends had sung his praises, and he was more of a holistic business mentor. He was going to help with the agency, the coaching business, and just kind of work on essentially building something much, much bigger, because I'd worked with a lot of guys in the online space, and ultimately I want businesses in the future that are, you know, not just in the online space, but are bigger beasts, like. And yeah, I wanted to work with someone that had exited multiple businesses as well, which he claimed to have done. But cut the long story short, he lied about everything he did. He was an absolute fraud, and we all found out and called him out on it, which, you know, I don't really want to focus on, because I don't want to give him the time of day. But ultimately, like, it's just one of those things, right? It's just one of those things where in business you make a bad decision and you lose a bit of money. You know, there are people, and we are very lucky in this online space that we're in, that the startup cost we have to start these businesses and to make money online is not that high. Like, you can start with nothing. You can start by investing in a $5,000 program. You can start with nothing and do it, you know, with no investment. You don't need to invest in anybody in order to make money here. Obviously, a lot of brick and mortar, more traditional businesses, you need to invest hundreds of thousands. You need to raise funding in order to make a business success. And I know people that have done that and put their life, soul, and energy into a business that they might only have 10% of, and it doesn't work, and they've raised all this money and spent their life savings on it for it not to work. So, you know, I just think of myself as very fortunate that we're in this space where we don't need all that money to have a successful business and to make a business work. So, you know, if I lost 30 to 30 grand, 50 grand, whatever it was, to this guy, then so be it. It's just one of those L's in business that everyone's gonna have. And to be honest, if I'm honest, I don't view it as a bad investment. I view it as a lesson. I learned a lot from that lesson, and more so to the point of, like, you know, I invested in all those other coaches. I invested in this coach. It was just, I'm just betting on myself to have success in this space. And I believe that, you know, in my own entrepreneurial journey, in my own business journey, that if I continue to invest in myself and I continue to make right decisions, of course, there's going to be some wrong decisions in there, and, you know, it will help me in the long run. And that's just a blip in the road at the end of the day for me. So I don't, you know, it is what it is, basically. And whether that's the right mindset or wrong mindset, I don't know. But yeah, probably the worst course, program, coach, whatever you want to call it, I've invested in. and I'll be very careful not to make that same mistake again. And the funny thing is that off the back of all these investments I've made within myself, I've only made more money. And the more I invest into myself, the more money I make. So I'm not going to let one bad investment stop me from investing into myself ever again, because I know I will, and I've continued to since then, because I've got countless proof of my own that, you know, the more I invest, the better I become, the smarter I become, the more knowledge I acquire, and the more my businesses grow. And obviously, you know, it's also probably important to mention that net worth and money isn't the be all and end all here. That's not the main focus. Like, I've got a lot clearer on the kind of person that I am, like working with mindset coaches, working with business owners that, you know, have, you know, a lot more confidence than I do or had done previously. Like, I feel like I'm a much better person because of all these investments I've made, and not necessarily just so in a money sense. So this year, 2024, I've still been very active in investing in myself. However, I'm a bit more selective nowadays because I believe I have the knowledge I need in order to get the businesses where they are. And it's simply down to me to apply that knowledge and, you know, go through it and put that time, energy and effort in order to get the businesses to where they want to go. And of course, like, these things take time. So I believe I have a lot of the knowledge. I just have to apply it. But there obviously are some occasions where I've been very fortunate to work with industry leading experts or meet industry leading experts, and you know, if I can learn something from them, hell yeah, I'm going to throw my money at them. Earlier on this year, I went to a conference in Las Vegas where I met Alex Hormozi and spent 3 days with his team. Main takeaway from this, like, I didn't really go in with any intention of any specific knowledge I wanted to learn. I just wanted to be in a room with big business owners where it enabled me to think bigger, be in a room of people that, you know, were doing more than me, and it really just opened my eyes to what was possible. And, you know, see people that were talking about selling their businesses, talking about acquiring businesses, talking about mergers, acquisitions, all this stuff, where I was like, okay, that is possible for me, and I should really, you know, I can start thinking about those things in the future, you know, because it's interesting being in such a bubble like the info product space or high ticket closing or the agency space. You hear and see all these things about different people's businesses that you then think that that is only possible for yours. But if you take a step outside of the space and you look around, you see what actually is possible, you realize that the opportunities are far greater than you think. Although there are great opportunities in this space regardless, like, there are more opportunities out there, and if you think bigger, then you should think bigger, and you'll realize that your business or your career has a lot more potential to it than maybe you initially anticipated. And that was it for me now. Like, I wanted to just see what was out there. And for me now, it's not about learning directly from individuals the whole holistic business strategy or tricks, tips, shortcuts, whatever it is, in order to grow a business. It's simply just small snippets of information or insights into their mindset or life that I will see and apply in mine that can make such a significant difference. And if I can spend 3 days with Alex and his team and take away just one thing, that's a worthwhile investment to me. I took away quite a few. And the most recent investment I've made into myself was working with Charlie Morgan and his team at Imperium Acquisition in their Mastermind. The reason being simply is Charlie has a business that is much bigger than mine, 5-6 times potentially bigger than Club Closer, but in a very similar industry, and it is a very similar business. So I wanted to learn from someone that has done what I'm trying to achieve on a much bigger scale, and it just made a lot of sense that, you know, if I could just follow his footsteps and do what he's done, then there's no reason why Club Closer couldn't be of a similar size, if not potentially bigger one day. So I went and spent 3 days with his team in London at a mastermind event, and I really just learned 4 main takeaways, and all I need to do for the time being is work on improving those things, and over time the business will grow. So I'm solely focused on that for the time being, and there's no point me even sharing those things with you, like those 4 things, because you don't have the same business, or you won't have the same, you know, there's a few, maybe 1 or 2 people that have the exact same business as Club Closer that are watching this video, but the rest of you, like, you're all doing your own individual things, you're at different stages, different levels. There's no point me sharing those things with you now, because you need to look at where you are and what you want to achieve, and you need to go and acquire and see that knowledge from people that have done that already, or that can help you at that certain level that will get you to that next stage. And if that's me, cool. If that isn't, also cool. You know, and I'm saying this because if I brought into that mastermind at the start of my journey, you know, when I first bought that Jordan Plan course, I wouldn't have made any money. Like, it wouldn't have made any difference to me. It'd have been far too complex, or I wouldn't have understand half the things being talked about, because I didn't have that knowledge. I wasn't there yet. You have to figure this out for yourself. You have to figure out what is going to take you to that next stage before you get on to the next stage, to the next stage, to the next stage, to the next stage. So, you know, whether that is escaping the 9-5, starting your career in sales, starting your own business, scaling your current business, whatever it is, you need to see what is actually going to help me. Do I need to actually buy and acquire the knowledge, or do I need to just apply the knowledge I already have? But yeah, that is a timeline of all the courses and programs I've ever bought in the online space.